Howdy, y'all. Dale here. Welcome back to Old Southern Kitchen and Garden. And today we're going to be doing our first canning video. As you see, we've got tons of tomatoes. So we thought we'd show you how we make our own homemade pasta sauce, can it, jar it, to save it, and we may throw in the bonus recipe of how we make our own homemade sloppy joe sauce. Both are totally awesome and both are very easy to change for your preferences. So let's get started. Okay, y'all, we're back, and as you can see, we are surrounded by a bunch of tomatoes. Last year, we grew so many tomatoes that not only did we eat tomatoes until we were sick of tomatoes, we gave away bags and bags of tomatoes, and finally, when everyone was like, no more tomatoes, we decided to freeze them. Here I have 14, 15 gallon-sized bags of different tomatoes that we had left over at the end of the season, and today we're going to can up pasta sauce, tomato sauce. We might even at the end make some sloppy joe sauce too. So the first step in doing this is the night before you go to do your video, you just pull your tomatoes out of the freezer, put them in the sink in a tub somewhere where they can drain and drip, because they will, as they thaw out. And then, this is preference. You do you, I tell you all the time. You don't have to. What we now have to do is take our tomatoes, we've got to peel them, and or you can, there's two ways of doing it actually. By freezing it, and I've never done it this way, supposedly as they thaw out, they just peel super easy, like that. Or you can drop them in a pot of boiling hot water for about 2 minutes, pull them out, and then you can peel them that way. The skin supposedly slips off that way as well. So I've got a whole bunch of peeling to do before we can even throw these things in the roaster back here and get to cooking. So let me get this done and I'll meet you back when I'm done. Howdy y'all, it's the next day and we're back. So I finished peeling and coring all those tomatoes. We then threw them in the slow cooker, let it cook overnight, and then this morning Chuck seasoned it up real good and let it cook a little more. I'm going to get out of the way and let Chuck tell you what he did with the seasoning portion of this, and then he and I will get to the canning. So, come on, Chuck.
Okay, guys, when I got up this morning, the sauce was actually still chunky because, I mean, you're using whole tomatoes. Now, I did use an emulsion blender in it. The reason I use the emulsion blender is something that not everyone will have to do. We have a lot of cherry tomatoes, and I'm sorry, we're not going to go through the process of actually peeling all these little tiny cherry tomatoes. Skins in a sauce is all personal preference. It's not something that has to be done. We peeled the big ones because they were frozen and easy to peel. The emulsion blender, after it's cooked overnight, will break down all of the skins and you won't even notice that they're in there. Then I added all your typical Italian seasonings. I added a lot of fresh garlic, Italian seasonings. Also added a little thyme, and for canning purposes, I did add a little bit of lemon juice, and with that is for, we want to water bath can these, so your acidity has to be up above 4.6, and a tomato usually ranges between 4.4 and 4.8. Ours was 4.7. I used the test strip to test it, but I added a little more acidity so that we can get a good clean seal when we water bath these. So if you're ready, we're going to start filling up the jars and getting it ready for the canner. The canner is on the stove. I have enough water in it that when we put the jars in, we'll have about an inch or two above the top of the jar, and that's what you need for a good seal. I have these here. This is just basically a jar filler. And what you're going to want to do, you want to leave at least an inch, which is the top portion of the jar. So we're going to fill these up to that point.
And FYI, y'all, these came out of boiling hot water. You want to make sure everything you're using, the jars, the lids, the thing for poking out the air bubbles, the ladle, has all been thoroughly, what's the word?
Sterilized.
That word, thoroughly sterilized.
And why do I have the water in the pot already heating? We are using hot spaghetti sauce. If it was cold sauce that we were putting in the jars, we could have actually used cold water, but you don't want to go with a cold sauce into a hot water or a hot sauce into a cold water. So you want to make sure that you keep the jars as stable as possible, and hot to cold would not be a great way to start your canning process.
And just to let y'all know what I'm doing, this is a bowl of vinegar. I am cleaning the lids of the tomato jars to make sure there's no sauce spilled around it for a good seal. If you can hand me the actual, I put the lid on, hand me the ring. Thank you. Next one. Hold on.
I mean, this is all of our tomatoes from the end of last season. If you freeze them, they peel really well. You can make sauces and salsas with it. You can't make anything that you wouldn't want pretty much pureed, because you do lose the consistency of a tomato once it's frozen.
We'll take that. And just to let y'all know, the tomatoes, when I started peeling them at the beginning of this video, were much easier to peel and core, the ones that were still semi-frozen. So if you take yours out of the freezer, maybe don't let them thaw all the way out, because like I said, I was spent all day yesterday peeling and coring tomatoes, and the ones still frozen, so much easier. And how many jars do you think are going to fit into this thing, Chuck? Because we'll stop after the first batch.
Taking 7.
And
the middle 6 around.
when you're going to put the tops on, you just want to put it on tight. Don't force it on there. Don't do like a death grip on it. You just want to finger tight put it on there. I feel like we're a little rusty because we haven't done canning in quite a while. And there's going to be much more canning coming up once we get back into this routine and get all the stuff going in the garden, because it's a really great hobby. And actually, it is what started us with the gardening. We started canning first, and as a hobby for the two of us to do together, since we like totally different things. And we had so much fun doing the canning that we were like, this would be way cheaper if we actually grew this stuff ourselves. So that's the reason we started our first garden last summer. And I think this will be your last one. And then we need to get these warm jars back into the hot water.
Now, before you start canning, if you want to actually try it, I would look up the canning guidelines, because it will tell you like tomatoes, we're going to put it in a water bath and let it boil for 30 to 40 minutes. Considering these are quart jars, we're gonna process it for 40 minutes. Everything has a different process. When you're doing jams and jellies, it's 10 to 15 minutes. So always look up the guidelines for canning so that you'll know exactly what you need to do. And then,
I'm going to swap spots with him, and while he's putting these in here, I guess I could get the camera and come on around. So, but just to give you this one little thing before I come over with the camera, people get freaked out with canning. Water bath canning is so easy. Yes, I'm freaked out with pressure canning, but water bath canning, no pressure at all. And like we always say around here, if Dell can do it, anybody can do it. So let me get the camera and bring you into the pot.
single layer of jars. On the bottom is a rack so that they're not banging around on the bottom of the pot. It's already getting close to boiling. So what I'm going to do is put the lid on. Once it comes to a boil, you want to reduce it so that it's simmering, boiling for 40 minutes for the tomato products. Once that's done, we're going to turn the heat off, leave the lid on, and let it set for 5 minutes. And then it's time to pull them out. And we'll see you whenever we're pulling them out. Okay guys, so this has boiled for 40 minutes. We turned the water off, removed the lid, and let it sit for 10 minutes. Now they're ready to come out. Now, there will be a little separating, that's just the proteins coming out. And then basically you're going to let this sit on the counter for 24 hours while all the jars seal. After they sealed, according to recommendations, these would be good for up to a year sitting on your shelf. So this is basically just like the jars of spaghetti sauce you buy at the store, only much healthier and made to your likes.
And with fresh ingredients from your garden. Well, ours were frozen, but you know what I'm saying.
And that's all we have. Now we're going to continue doing this. This next batch that we have is Sloppy Joes, which basically we cooked all the tomatoes exactly the same and then split it up so that we had some Sloppy Joe mix without the meat, because I do not like canning meat. I find it has a rubbery texture. And on this one we added, instead of the Italian seasonings, brown sugar, onions, peppers, which I'll cook down and we'll add some more whenever we're actually making the product. Yellow mustard. It calls for cinnamon and clove, but Taylor doesn't really like it, so I don't put it in. And just fresh herbs, anything that you would like in your Sloppy Joe, and you can can it exactly the same. The only difference is when I'm canning those, I can in a smaller jar, because you could see the texture of it. There's onions, bell peppers, but it has a sweet, almost savory taste to it, almost like a barbecue sauce-ish, not really totally. And then all you have to do once you're finished with this is brown your meat and pour it in, just like you would if you had a can of over-the-counter Sloppy Joe mix. But once again, it's fresh ingredients, you know what's going into it, and much cheaper when you consider.
So we are going to go ahead and do the Sloppy Joes the same way we did the spaghetti sauce and pasta sauce, and we're not going to make y'all have to watch that too. Just know the process is the same. Time will be a little different because it's smaller size jars.
The smaller jars go for 30 minutes in a water bath with tomato products.
Okay, well, thank y'all for stopping by as usual, and we will talk at you on the next video.
Thanks,
y'all.
guys.
And please, look, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment down in the bottom about pasta sauces you might like, whether you love Sloppy Joes, your recipe for some pasta sauces and stuff. And we will see you on the next video, right?
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.